Warning, the following audio transmission is based on theory and is intended for entertainment purposes only. It's Doomsday and its affiliates will not be held liable for anything your dumbass does. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome everybody to It's Doomsday podcast. Today is Sunday, January 23rd, 2022. Time is 17:57 in the PM, and joining me is Al. How are you today, Al?
I am wonderful, my friend. The deep freeze has thawed, and I am back to good again.
That's awesome. And tonight's episode is going to be on group selection for Doomsday, or the apocalypse, or the shit hits the fan situation, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're going to be getting into. But before we do, the email, it's doomsday2020@gmail.com. Find me on the TikTok and the Clapper at It's Doomsday Podcast. And find Al on the TikTok and the Clapper at big_daddy_prep. Find us on there, guys. Add us, communicate with us, comment on our videos. Check it all out. It's good stuff.
Righto.
So, to take a little bit of the lead on this, first off, it's going to be a two-part episode. This is going to be the first part. We'll be back with the second part of this next week. But, guys, the reason why this is so important is because if you don't heed our advice and you're not very cautious with selecting people for your group, you're not going to have a very good apocalypse. It's going to go very bad for you very quickly.
Very quickly.
About that, Al?
Very quickly. Matter of fact, your selection of the people is more important than any prep that you lay back. No matter how good a preps you have, if you don't have the right people in place, you're not going to have those preps for very long.
Oh no, and I could tell you, I've seen people have it in their head that they're just going to take what another person has, or they just want to be part of a group and they don't want to do much preparation themselves. And if you're one of these people that have the idea, like, I don't need to put back food stocks, I'm going to be able to live off the land, or I'm going to be able to live off just gardening, that's going to be true to an extent, because anything can and will go wrong, which is you're going to resort back to canned goods, back to other people's stuff if you're not fully prepared yourself.
Right. You're going to be very thin. If you're that person that says, I'm going to hunt and fish and garden, you're going to be a very thin person, and you're probably going to be bones. You'll be skin and bones at first, but sooner or later, you're just going to be bones, because you're not going to survive that way. There's no way.
Now, I have it in my head that I am going to do a lot of hunting and gardening, but I'm also stocking a lot of things to supplement food loss too.
Right.
Anybody that's ever gone hunting knows you sit in the woods for quite a few hours and not bring back anything, right?
Righto.
We all know the gardens are...
How many people go hunting every year, Jester, and never bring anything home?
I know.
It happens every year.
So where I live, we have a very long deer season, okay? I only got to get out in the woods maybe 3 times this year due to other stuff I had going on. So I was like, you know what? I saw one outside of the front porch one day, down over the hill a little bit. And I was like, well, why the hell not? I grabbed the AR, and next thing you know, it's in the freezer.
Right. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. But I guess just a lot of people have it in their minds that they do not need to put back the food because that is their primary plan. It's a good plan, but it shouldn't be your only one.
No. But Jester, let me tell you something. When it comes to having food stocks and stores and preps and things like that, they're only going to last as long as they last. You're going to have to replenish. That's what I keep trying to tell a lot of preppers. They talk about, I bought this and I bought that. And I'm like, that's great. That's wonderful. What's your plan to renew it? Well, they don't have a plan to renew their resources. So really, they have a plan for 3, 6 months, whatever like that. They have no plan at all. And failure to plan is going to be the downfall of most preppers that don't have a way to replenish or restock.
Absolutely. And I mean, there are some things that's going to be harder to reproduce. Like sugar's a big one. Stock a lot of sugar. It's cheap, right? Like you're not going to remake sugar. Flour can be, if you're growing grain and you have a mill, yes, you could do that. But when it comes to base ingredients and foods, I think it's better to stock as much as possible. Because in some applications, in some areas of people preps, they just can't. There's no way for them to recreate or renew these things.
Right. And you can grow sugar beets and things like that. It happens. You can do it. But the amount that you would be able to grow for what your need would be, it would be practically unobtainable goal to be able to do it. Plus, on top of that, you would have to refine that sugar and things. But while sugar is cheap and plentiful, now's the time to put that away.
Absolutely. And I mean, just a real quick side note on that. I simply just store my sugar in Mylar bags. It works good. It keeps the bugs out. It keeps the moisture out. And I separate them down into like a few pound sections, right? So I've got it all kind of segregated and measured out, and I just do it in the Mylar bags. It's easy to do. You really don't have to vacuum seal them. Throwing an oxygen absorber in there does help, but it's not a necessity. If sugar clumps up, you just break it up again.
Right. It's not an absolute you have to have. You can get away without it if you need to.
Exactly. All right. So let's tear. We got off topic a little bit there. Let's tear into this group selection. This is exciting. So, Al, I want to ask you a question that I get a lot, and I want to see what your answer is on this. So the first thing I get asked a lot when it comes to group selection is, how many people do you need for your group? What do you think, Al?
Okay. Well, Jester, that's a kind of a two-part question for me. I have what I call the inner circle and the outer circle. The inner circle of people that are my most trusted family, friends, what is the closest with me, and I call those the 12 to 24-hour day people. No more than a dozen. That's it. I mean, that's my inner circle. No more than a dozen. Now, the ones on the periphery, the ones that might be your neighbors, your friends, the people you associate with, you do business with, well, I say 4 dozen are the tops for me on that, because I like to see people on a daily basis. I might not live with you, but I might see you on a daily basis. So my inner circle, probably 12, and my outer circle that I really associate with on a daily basis, probably 4 dozen at tops.
You raise, so something you said to me in that is you have your inner circle and your outer circle. I guess I didn't have that in my line of preps with community. I guess I kind of thought, well, I have the people that are going to be here that I trust, and then we're going to have the people that I would barter with, but I really don't know who those people are going to be yet. So I can't really put those people into a category yet.
Right.
But
you kind of have to identify them as
understand.
you go. You identify them as you go. Yeah.
Absolutely. So when I've answered this question to other people, I have a magic number in my head. And my magic number is 18 to 24 people. Okay. So 18 to 2 dozen people. And there's a reason why for it. And this is the reason why I'm bringing this up, because I want you guys to think about this for your group selection. So I know I need 18 people to effectively run a security operation 24 hours a day around my property. It's going to take 6 men on 3 shifts to get that done. Okay. That is just what it's going to take. So I need 18 AB bottled people to carry out security operations. And even at that, 6 people in rotations is not a big operation in the grand scheme of things. It's really not.
No, it isn't.
But I feel that it is the bare minimum to survival. Like, I know I need 6. I couldn't do less than 6. I need 6 round the clock. But then the reason why I say to 24 is because anything for me over 24, it's too many mouths to feed. It's too many people to monitor. It's too many people to worry about. But you're going to need 6 buffer people in there if someone gets hurt, if someone gets sick, if somebody has to double down and do a second job. You're going to need a few more bodies in there. And this isn't kids or elderly people that may be in there. These are able-bodied individuals, capable of working and being productive.
Right. Jester, I think what our listeners need to understand about you and I also to go along with what we're saying is we don't discuss these things ahead of time. So you're not just listening to two guys that have got a list of rehearsed questions of what they're going to say. We purposefully don't discuss these things ahead of time so that we bring our true sense of what we believe in from two different worlds, two different places into a conversation. So we don't sit down and discuss and rehearse what we say. So when I say one thing and you're surprised by it, for the audience, that is not something that's like done for any kind of ooh factor. That's for real. Jester didn't know that I had a 2-layer system. I didn't realize that 24 people are the maximum that he's really wanting to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I think that makes the authenticity of what we do on this podcast real, is that you get the benefit of 2 people that are preppers that come from a little different side of the aisle that mix those things together and let you as the listener figure out what you want to do. I just want to throw that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the proof of this is like, you guys may listen back a few episodes and hear me kind of stumbling over my own words because I'm caught off guard sometimes. So it's definitely not rehearsed at all. No, absolutely not. So with the community side to this, with the 24 people as well, I want you guys to know that you're going to have people running double duties on your compound or community or whatever you want to call it. A guy that does security just can't do security. He's got to learn other things. He's got to be steeped in gardening. If he's not, you got to teach him. If you have a lot of livestock you're working on, you have to have this guy put a hand into. You know what I mean? So imagine you're on my compound. There's 24 hours in the day. You're going to run security operations for 8 regardless. That's what you're going to do because that's what's keeping everybody safe. So you're going to do that. You're also going to spend 4 to 8 hours a day, conversating, learning different skills, maybe helping out with something that's going on, and then you're going to have your 8-hour sleep time. I mean, there is no day off in the apocalypse. It's not going to be a thing. You can't decide, I don't feel like cooking today. Let's go to McDonald's. I don't feel like gardening today. Let's just go pick up the shit we need at Walmart. Like, these are not options. It's going to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Somebody has to be monitoring, managing, doing what needs to be done, keeping people in line, creating some kind of order. It's just what's going to happen.
Jester, I've always said that the apocalypse, a grid down situation, a bad situation is not a 40-hour-a-week job that you clock out, go home, and you're done. You can throw your feet up. This is life and death. If you decide to take a day off, it's probably going to be your last day if you don't run security, if you don't make sure you have the firewood you need, if you don't make sure that you have the food to eat. It's going to result in you or someone else having a very bad day from then on out. So you have to, in this community, in this circle, you have to be looking for the things that you want to build the community with, the kind of people,
Oh, absolutely. And something on that note, how you said, like, you take a day off, it could be your last. Okay. So in the community realm, let's talk about that for a second. Say it is somebody's last day. Say you have someone in your group that's like a veterinarian or does animal husbandry or does electrical work, any special skill set. When they're dead, when someone takes them out, or if they die from whatever kind of causes, if nobody's learned that skill set, no one's going to have it, right? Some of these skills are very hard to reteach, and it takes a lot of devotion. So you got to have people in your group in that mindset that are willing to learn and are willing to increase the skills they already have in a subject. And if you have people in your group that are like, no, I'm just doing this job and that is it, they don't need to be in your group.
Right. Well, Jester, I sat down and I created a very small list for myself of, community circle and the things that you would need to look for out of the people that you're bringing into your circle, your community. And just hear me out for a minute. Listen to these 6 and tell me if this is a good way that you would assess people. Okay. First of all, you're going to assess folks on their skills. Okay. We all know that skills are going to be very important in a grid down situation. What are their assets? What do they bring to the table with them? What are their liabilities? What are their medical conditions? What is their mindset with the others in the group? Because if you have an established group now, understand their mindset might be completely different than others in the group. And then also their previous involvement with other members. Do you bring someone in that possibly doesn't get along with someone else that's in your group? And you're talking about replacing a skill when a skill is lost. These are the things that you're looking for in the people that you bring in. Am I bringing in someone that's bringing a skill in that we're lacking in, or we know we have someone that's older in, or we're not as strong in? You kind of have to assess the people, and you're going to have to do this on a pretty quick basis when you're talking about bringing people in.
No, I totally understand that. And like, guys, do be weary of where someone's skill set comes from, right?
Yes.
And I'm not, you guys all know I support our veterans. You guys all know I back our military. So understand when I say this, I'm not, taking stabs at anybody. But if you get a guy that you want to bring him into your group because he's a combat veteran, okay, and you think this is going to be a great skill for you to have, do understand the issues that could come with that. There are some guys that have PTSD and they can deal with it. They could deal with it just fine. But there are other guys out there that have serious mental health complications that putting them back into this high stress scenario or an active firefight or a combat situation is going to be very, very, very bad. Okay. So not to mention people that are on people that have PTSD from combat, if they are on meds, when the apocalypse hits, the meds are going to stop. Okay.
Yes, that's true. Very true.
So I would say to you, if you're dealing with a guy who's an active combat veteran, just ask him. Just be real polite. Don't be an asshole, but be like, hey man, what's PTSD like? Can you explain it to me? Ask him what it's like. And if he really gets into it and says how horrible it is and he hasn't slept at night in years and he's on all these meds and he's barely keeping it together right now, like I'm sorry, man, but it's your survival at that point. You don't want that guy in that group.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
You just don't. And I mean, I hate to take a stab at our veterans because you guys know I love them, but this is about survival, not who I like and who I don't like, right? This is about your survival.
Jester, I believe in its actual grid down situation, you see a lot of veterans that probably would become somewhat lone wolves on their own because they don't want to live in a structured type situation to where they would be with folks that don't have the same mindset or skill set that they have. I mean, from dealing with friends of mine that have been in the service for long periods of time, their mindset's a little different. They don't really want to be with a lot of us, quote unquote, civilians to have to deal with us on a daily basis because like our mentality is different than theirs. And not serving in the military, I can't give 100% a take on that, but I think you'll see a lot of veterans, or they'll at least group up maybe amongst themselves or be lone wolves, but I don't think you'll see a lot of them want to be in a day-to-day homesteading type operation. I don't feel that. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I could agree with that to an extent, but I kind of also think that your veterans are going to be the leaders of these groups, because the initial threats, everything comes back to survival. Well, what better place do we learn combat? Do we learn how to survive? Is the military, right?
Agree.
So having a guy that has that command presence, that has that leadership capability, a lot of these veterans out there are, I'm telling you, they're going to rise to the top of these groups and they're going to be the ones in control. And as long as you have a person, man or woman, that has a really good head on their shoulders, awesome. That's fine. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let it ride. Right.
Yes.
But also at the same time, you do have these veteran guys that think they're above civilians. And they have like a narcissistic worldview, and that could be very detrimental for your group. You don't want that either.
I agree with you. That kind of gets into that number 5 and 6 that I said a minute ago. The mindset that person might determine uh, be detrimental to the community, and then their previous involvement with other members. You know, you don't want to bring somebody into a situation that's already bad with folks that don't particularly get along. If let's just take for instance, we're all big boys and girls here. We understand there are things happening in the world. You wouldn't want to bring somebody into a situation where maybe they've had a previous involvement, maybe a romantic involvement with somebody in this group here, and there was somebody else now. That would be a poor choice to bring somebody in. Just like it would be a poor choice to bring someone in that maybe had a different mindset, maybe a previous military mindset that didn't want to be with those type of people. I agree with you, Jester, but what I really worry about the most is if your structure of your community starts to break down after you start building your inner core of people. That's where the most worry comes to be, where you could end up having to split the group, things like that. And that's not your end goal. Your end goal is survival and keeping the group together.
On that note, also, if you have issues with somebody before the apocalypse, living with them in a lawless society where you're stuck around them 24/7, where you don't really get a break because nobody's going to work, nobody's going to the store, this is like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, very quickly.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
quickly. And it won't take long for that recipe to get done either. I promise you, it will be very quick. It's very swift. I'm afraid justice in the apocalypse is going to be, yeah, you're going to be judge, jury, and executioner for a lot of these things.
Oh, absolutely. And guys, remember when you're selecting your community that you're going to have people in there that, you know, they're not going to face real world consequence for things. And they know that. They know that this is going to be lawless. Some people have it in their minds. They're going to take over. They're going to take advantage of the situation. So be very weary of that.
Well, Jester, and some of the things that I kind of identified over kind of thinking about this week, things that might help or hinder your community is age. You have your age is a great divider in a lot of ways because you have younger people that, well, let's face it, when you're young, you're kind of, I'm cocky, I'm going to do this, I got this idea, I don't know if it'll work, but I think it'll work. Then you have your older people, maybe their abilities aren't as keen as they used to be, but they've been down a lot of paths and they have a lot of knowledge generally of a lot of topics. So age and differences of ages could help because you want to keep younger people around because they're physically probably in better shape than the older people are. But in having an older population, which they're not physically as strong, but their knowledge is going to be a big thing. You're going to have to kind of teeter that balance back and forth of youth and age with experience.
Right. A good example of this is my father still lives here on the compound. He's still here. He's not going to be here for very much longer, but if shit hit the fan tomorrow, he would be here. Now,
Right.
he's an older gentleman. He's getting up there. He doesn't possess a hell of a lot of skills. But when it comes to helping take care of the livestock, he's got it. When it comes to processing kills that we would bring back, he could handle that. There are things and jobs we can give him to do. Even though he's not physically fit or could go run or, is very proficient with a firearm anymore, he can still prove useful in other ways, right?
Yes.
I mean, even small things like, hey, man, can you mix some gas and get things ready for the chainsaws, get the blades on, because we have a ton of firewood we got to go wrangling. We're doing some other stuff right now. Like the little piddly piss around jobs is what we would give him to do. And they're still important jobs. These still need to be done.
Right. Right. I agree totally on that. Well, that goes back to the whole thing, the skills, person with the skills and the person that's willing to learn and has the ability to learn. You have to look at the people that you're bringing in. Do they have skills or are they really BS skills? Are they really not as skills they say they are? They're really making themselves look good because they want to join a community because they don't want to be on their own, opposed to someone that maybe doesn't have as much skills, but they're willing to learn. They have the ability to do more physical things. Each one of these traits is an asset or a liability. And that, I hate to say that people are like a balance sheet at the bank, but it's true. You have to take your assets and your liabilities and balance them with each other and say, is this person more of an asset to me, or are they more a liability to me? And then make your choices of who's in your community by that. I hate to break it down to basically dollars and cents and worth and things like that, but it's the way it breaks down to, Jester, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, honesty is a big key with this as well, because I'd rather have a guy come to me and say, hey, look, man, I don't know much about how to use a gun. I don't know much about how to make a fire, but I do know something about electrical. I do know something about taking care of animals, and I do know how to do a couple of these things, and I'm wanting to learn more. I'm willing to learn more. What do I need to do to be involved here?
Right.
I would rather people come at me with that aspect of things, because I could teach you how to run security operations. I could teach you how to shoot. I could teach you some hand-to-hand combat skills. It may be just enough to get your ass kicked, but I could show you enough skills to make you worthy of being here. Not saying that I'm the end-all be-all or that I know all, but I'd rather somebody come to me just, hey, I'm willing to learn, dude. I don't know it all. Versus somebody that's saying, I am God's gift to prepping. I could teach you everything. I am the man. Let me join your group. If you were that good, you wouldn't need to join a group in the first place. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, Jester, most of the listeners probably know because they've seen me on social media, and I've talked about it a lot. I've not been shy about it. I spent 2 decades working in the prison system, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I was a firearms instructor. I did a lot of things. I had instructed on a lot of things over the years, but I was a firearms instructor for quite a few years. And let me tell you something: the greatest achievement in the world is taking a lady who's been a housewife in her entire life, who decided to go to work in a prison setting, and taking her to the range. She's never touched a gun before. She's not scared of a gun, but she's definitely not confident with one. And taking her, Jester, and in 6 weeks turning her into a lethal killing machine, who is who's probably one of the best shots I ever taught in my life. Now that's an achievement, and I got to do that. This poor little lady, I loved her to death. But it shows that you can take someone that's willing to learn a skill set, if they'll pay attention and you have the patience to teach them. You can show them a lot of things. You can turn somebody into something that they weren't before, and it only benefits you and the community in the end.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, just kind of on a side note with that, since you brought up the shooting thing and training and stuff like that, like being a firearms instructor is like one of my dream jobs. Just throwing that out there. I've always wanted to do that.
I did it. Let me tell you, it's not all fun and games.
Oh no, like, I mean, telling me I could get paid to hang out at the range all day and teach people how to shoot. Oh, I'd love that. I mean, it'd be great. Anyway, but with this, if somebody is joining in your community, one way you could tell how serious they are if they've never shot before. First off, check their willingness to learn that skill set, because you're going to need that skill set, whether you're hunting or defending for security purposes. You're going to need to shoot. Let's not negate that. You're going to have to learn this. And another good way to see how serious somebody is, if they can go legally buy a firearm, that's a good test on what's going on within their background. And if they're willing to spend the money on something to get into the community as well, that's going to show you how seriously they are taking this, if those two things make sense.
It does. It makes full sense. And Jester, just about that little lady, the greatest thing in the world to me was, after it was all over and done with and she had become a very proficient shot, there had been a lot of people that had shot and hunted their whole lives that came in that wouldn't listen, that ended up failing out, flunking out, not doing well at the range. But at the end, she gave me a hug and said, I can't believe you're the only person that believed in me. And that made me feel so good. That was the greatest medal they could have gave me in all the years I spent doing that, because I knew I took someone who had taught them a skill, something that they could use down the road, not only for this job, but I knew from then on out that I could teach people skills. It boasted me as much as it did for her, because I knew I had the ability to take someone that didn't know how to do something and turn them into someone who did know how to do it. So someone in your group also, you have to have someone identified that's a person, that's a teacher, someone who has the ability to show things to, that doesn't just, I ain't got time to show you that. Showing someone a skill today might be what saves you tomorrow. Teaching someone CPR or first aid today might be the person that saves your hind end tomorrow.
You just made me remember something in my head. So I utilized, and I've said this in the show before, so people have probably heard me say this before. I utilized the pandemic, the initial start of the pandemic, to assess the people I had in my group, right?
Yep.
And I literally kind of walked around and played stupid just to see what people's reactions would be, gave them little tasks and little obligations to see how serious they were about things, because this was a little mini shit hits the fan situation.
Yep.
So I utilized this to my advantage the best way possible and consistently assessed people. And I could tell you, people within my group that claimed it was their job to do certain things, whenever you would bring it up, like, hey, man, when are we going to do this? This is on you. We need to get this going. Oh, well, you could figure that out on your own. I've got stuff to do. It's like, well, no, but you're the guy. And
Right.
then whenever it was things like, I watched people blatantly lie to my face, just flat out lie to my face. One guy that was within my group, he was here, and I'm we're talking about quarantining, this, that, the other. And I said, dude, you really got to stop moving around until we really figure out what this virus is. You kind of need to remain stationary. You have preps here, you've got food here, you need to remain stationary. Stop going and bouncing around. He's like, I haven't been anywhere, as he's sipping out of a fucking fast food cup in his hand.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, you just made the assumption that I'm that fucking stupid when I'm not. So, but by me playing stupid, I saw what you're really up to. And now I see that this is a guy that cannot be here for things because he has the mentality that he is above people. And he's so far above people and so far narcissistic that he can't even identify that he's a creature of habit at this point. And the narcissism is so bad, he can't even identify that he's fucking up and people are seeing through his bullshit. Right? It's insane. But anybody that's went through anything similar, that has played the stupid card, utilized this current pandemic for group assessment, anything you learn, then stick to that, because that's one of the best teachers I've found so far.
Well, Jester, that kind of segues into, believe it or not, into the next part of what I was fixing to say, the next thing I identified here, and that's mindset versus open-mindedness. Having a closed mind and having a mindset that says that I know what I'm doing, I'm in charge, compared to someone with an open mind, is vast difference. I mean, it's the difference in the, black and white. It's completely different. I like to think whenever I was a supervisor and I was a captain in the prison system, that I was able to listen. You get a lot of people with rank. They didn't listen to people under them because they got this rank syndrome, as I call it. They quit listening to the people that worked with them on a daily basis. They became the all for well, I know best, I have the rank, they have bestowed upon me these bars, I'm the most intelligent. I like to think I was a person that listened to folks that worked with me on a day-to-day basis. Even the brand new guy that walked in the door may see something with fresh eyes that you don't see. So you have to look at the people that are in your group or coming in your group. Are they open-minded, or are they a closed-off mindset? They only know what they know, and they're not willing to learn anything else, or they're not willing to change, or they're not willing to see things in a different light. you have to identify that early, because those people, not necessarily the people with the closed mindsets are bad people and you have to get rid of them, but you have to understand those people are not going to make change. If there's major change within your group or major change within the world around you, they're not going to change with it. You're either going to have to drag them kicking, screaming in it, or eventually you may have to put them out of the group, because some people don't handle change at all.
Oh, no, absolutely. And like, I understand the rank syndrome. Man, I'll tell you what, the guys with the railroad tracks were the worst. It seemed
Yeah.
like that
Oh, I know.
particular rank, but I was a monorail guy, so I wasn't that bad.
Well,
Just
I had the tracks, but the thing is, it didn't seem like I tried to have an open mind, and a lot of people worked for me that liked working for me because I was different than a lot of other people were. But it even gets you, even when you try to be open minded. Sometimes you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, "No, am I being open minded enough?" You really have to do that. But I understand that mentality.
But did they call you Captain Al? I have to ask.
No, they used to call me Captain Big Daddy. That's been going on for I've been that for 25 years, so at plus 25 years. But that was definitely it. But it was one of those things that stuck over the years.
That's absolutely awesome, though. I was not respecting Captain Big Daddy. That is
Captain Big Daddy.
that's
Yeah, I
priceless.
remember
That is
that.
so great.
I remember that coming across a speaker system in a bar one night, and I knew somebody who had too much to drink. I have to go get them now. I looked at somebody and said, I have to go get someone now. They have referred to me over that speaker. I have to go now. Thank you. But yeah, that's that. Yeah, that's the way it is. But Jester, when you're forming a group of people can't always just be your buddies, people that you think that we've been knowing each other since we were kids, because some of the people that will end up selling you out in the end are some of the people that you least expect it. And that's another thing. Another thing about this forming a group is you have to understand the people that are with you. Are they willing to go all the way with you? Is there someone there that you don't trust enough that you wonder if they're going to sell you out one day? Because if that person's there, Jester, they're a cancer, and eventually you're going to have to cut that cancer out. It's easier to get rid of it early than to let it stick around.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, don't get it twisted. Your best friend will be the first one to screw you over.
Yep.
So will even family. I mean,
Yep.
there's a very unique bond within people when it comes to survival and when it comes to any kind of like security ops or policing or military aspect. There is a big like internal mentality that everybody has to be on that same page, right? Now, in the real world, while we have law and order and we have government, they in law enforcement they pin you against the bad guy. So you're all on the same team and you're fighting. But in an apocalyptic scenario, your group are the good guys, but so is every other group because they all aim for the same goal of survival, right?
Right.
So when it comes to things like marauders and people that are out to do you harm, yeah, it's one thing, but the guy that might be coming to do you harm might be trying to feed his family, which doesn't pin him as a bad guy or an enemy. He's just a guy trying to survive just like you are.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. That kind of goes back to my two-tier system, where I have my inner circle and then I have my outer circle. But I never really got to the ones that are outside of that outer circle, Jester, and that's the rest of the world. And you're going to have to deal with the rest of the world. You may have to do business with the rest of the world. You don't have to drink a beer with them and be buddies with them, but you may have to deal with them on a basis to continue your lifestyle by dealing with them. And you're going to have to know which ones that you can trust to a certain degree and which ones to stay all the way away from. And I'm afraid since it's a localized area that everyone's in, you're going to pretty much know these people. If they've screwed you in the past or if they've been bad to do business with in the past, the apocalypse is not going to make them all of a sudden good folks.
Oh no, absolutely not. If anything, it's going to make people react quite the opposite and be bad people instead of.
I agree with you 100%. what scares me the most about this apocalypse type situation is that we're going to see the worst of the worst of people. And I hope we see some of the best of people, but I don't think that's going to happen because when it gets to be every man for himself, right now, let's face it, a very, very small percentage of Americans right now have to worry about really where their next meal's coming from because there's somewhere out there to get a meal. They don't really have to worry about where they want to live. A lot of people choose to be homeless. And let's face it, I'm not talking bad about homeless people, but a lot of people choose because of their decisions, addictions, things like that. They choose to be homeless. But when it becomes a situation where people aren't choosing to be hungry and they're not choosing to be homeless and they're not choosing to, it's just a part of life, you're going to separate a lot of good people from bad people. And good people aren't always going to be able to be good people. They're going to have to do bad things to continue to keep their lifestyle up.
No, I totally agree with that. The mentalities, it's really hard for people to wrap their minds around this. When, for our audience out there, when me and Al talk about these things, we just didn't take 5 minutes to think about this. Like, this is stuff that goes through our minds all the time. So if you're out there and you're like, man, these guys are being a bit extreme, or the stuff that they're talking about is making me a little bit uncomfortable, guys, it's an uncomfortable topic. It's an extreme topic. So bear that.
Well, Jester, I learned a lot of these extreme mentalities from where I worked at in the prison system, where you see people really at their worst and you really see what people can be when they're primitive in society. It, as much as I say prison molded me and shaped me and made me the better person that I am and the better prepper I am, it also taught me what happens at the most rudimentary parts of life, how people can think like cavemen. That's a fact. And we class ourselves as a high society, but we have very low society thoughts a lot of times. And when an actual bad situation happens, you see it. I mean, look at what happened during Katrina down south. When they turned off, when all the power went off and everything went off, people went to being cavemen again. Just recently, 2 or 3 years ago, when the EBT machines get down and simultaneously with the card machines went down, and I believe it was around New Orleans, you saw people start fist fighting and robbing and raiding and tearing stuff up because they couldn't get what they want. This is going to be on a mass grand scale that this is going to happen. So if you want to see the bad people can do, we already get glimpses of it on a periodic basis.
So as a periodic basis too, I mean, being that you were in the prison system, how many guys in there formed their own communities, their own organizations, and had their own survival rules and rituals and things within the prison system?
Every one of them. Don't let anybody tell you I was in a prison and I didn't associate with any gangs or any affiliations, because they're liars. Everyone that's in prison at one time or another associates with another group of humans. There are no lone wolves in the prison system. That is a lie. Everyone, whether they don't have to necessarily become an Aryan Brotherhood or a folk nation or a GD or anything. They don't have to necessarily become, but they will be affiliated with, because everyone has to maintain some kind of structure to live. There are no lone wolves. There are no such bad guys in prison that they're all on their own, that they don't belong to any groups. That's a lie. I can preach that with 20 years of working in the prison system. Everyone belongs to a group or community. I think that's the reason why I took a lot of my learning from that system and applied it to my prepping when it comes to community structure, because I watched the greatest community structures there were in the prison system. Because everyone has to belong to something if you want to continue to do things on a daily basis. Because one side of the gym is for this black organization or this white organization or this Hispanic organization or this Asian association, this part of the chow hall, this is the tables you sit at, or it's like that. So that that's the same thing I bring into prepping. We all know we're going to have to belong to a community or an association to be able to survive, because there are going to be very few lone wolves. Lone wolves have to do one of two things. They have to either barter, sell, or trade, or they have to grow or gather or whatever. And you can't carry the world around your back. So they're not going to be very lone wolves.
Oh no, absolutely not. I don't like. I've already stated many times. I don't like the lone wolf mentality. I don't. I think it's a good way to get killed.
Yep.
And I know I referenced something on last week's episode about it. To me, it's you're going to need a sense of community. Like if you were lone wolf survival now, you wouldn't be going to Walmart, you wouldn't be going to the store, you wouldn't be going to work, you wouldn't be paying taxes. If you had full capable lone wolf survival now, you would be instituting that in day-to-day life. But you yourself, who claim to be that lone wolf, do occasionally rely on the government, on services in our society, everything. The economy, you rely on it. So let's not forget about that.
I agree with you.
So Al, we are coming up on our time limit here for the episode. So I knew we couldn't do this in one. I just had a feeling.
I knew it couldn't, because I've still got a whole page I've not even touched on, a whole virgin page of stuff. So I knew this would be at least a 2-parter for sure. And I'm glad it is going to be. That way we don't have to just slough over a subject. We can actually get into it, because I think that's what our listeners want.
Exactly. And I love going into depth with this stuff. And this could even be a 3-parter. I'm just saying, it's very possible.
Well, Jester, if we could get some suggestions from some of our listeners as to some questions or some things that they'd like to bring up, we could definitely make it a 3-parter, because I'd love to hear what they have to say about it.
Right. And I'll bring it up in the live show tonight. And just for our listeners out there, 2 things I want to reference before we do get out of here. Guys, don't forget, code Doom10 for 10% off at Ready Wide Foods, guys. ReadyWideFoods.com. Get on there, get your 10% discount, start stocking up on that stuff. The other thing is, guys, after I do my pre-recording with Al for the show, I do go live on Sunday nights at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time on Podbean.com. So if you guys do want to get into the live shows and you want to check that out, you're more than welcome to do so. It doesn't necessarily stay on the topic of prepping. I'm just throwing that out there.
Right.
And and Al's supposed to be taking over the live shows in the mornings. Not this Monday, not when you hear this episode released, but the following Monday. All right?
Yes, sir.
So do be on the lookout for that if you guys want to catch the daily lives and get on there and find out what's going on around the world. Or if you just find Al's voice is nice and pleasant to wake up to in the morning. Get on there and give it a listen.
Well, we're planning on 5:30 Central Standard Time, 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time on January the 31st, which will be next Monday, as our initial kickoff day. And if everything goes well, that's what we're going to do.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, guys, we will be back with part 2, possibly of part 3, next Monday to continue community selection in Doomsday. Al, you got anything you want to add before we're out of here?
Just want to tell our viewers that we appreciate our listeners, that we appreciate them. Please keep downloading. Please keep listening. And you're the reason why we do all this.
This is an emergency action message. At approximately 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, NORAD is tracking 15 ICBM nuclear missiles inbound to the following cities: Orlando, Miami, Pittsburgh, Dover, Newark, Richland, Philadelphia, New York City, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Boston, Seattle, Detroit. This is an extremely deadly situation. Stay tuned. The next emergency message will be a presidential address.